Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for this webinar about the ABPS and Match. I'm really glad you're able to watch this, and I'm really pleased to learn of your interest in participating in the 2022 Postdoctoral Fellowship Match. It's always a very exciting and honestly probably stressful time for everybody, but I hope I can give you some information today that will help you through this process. Everybody in our organization really wants this to be a good experience for both the applicants and the program. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to just be giving you some basic information, and you can also find information on our website and also by contacting the individual programs. So without further ado, maybe we'll get started here. So the title of this is obviously Preparing and Applying for Neuropsychological Residency 2022. And yes, I can speak in full sentences. So let me start by just moving to the next slide here. So what we're going to look at today is kind of an overview of the application process applying during this match cycle. A little bit of information, just exactly what is the match and what are the benefits. Go over some of the important dates, and they are different from previous presentations. So if for some reason you had watched this last year or found an old video, those are last year's dates, not this year's. So, and then we'll also address some frequently asked questions. So just to try and give some basic information. First off, a little bit about me. I am the president of ABPS. My term runs from this year, 2020 to 2022. And this is also my second term on the board of directors. I'm the training director for the adult postdoctoral program at the University of Minnesota in the Department of Rehabilitation Medicine. We have 2 adult resident positions, 1 per year. And we also have 5 faculty members who participate in that. In addition to my clinical work and work with teaching, I'm also an associate editor for the Clinical Neuropsychologist. And I'm currently co-chairing a subcommittee that is planning the upcoming, what we kind of colloquially call the Houston Conference 2 conference, where we'll be revising the longstanding guidelines that have helped our profession along for the past quarter century. So I'm very much involved in that process as well, planning the conference and everything, which will be occurring. Actually, it'll be occurring on our campus in September of 2022. So something that will be, I think, a rather important event for neuropsychology. So anyway, so that's a little bit about me, but let me talk a little bit about ABPS. ABPS is, the Association of Postdoctoral Training in Clinical Neuropsychology. And we were founded in 1992, which kind of grew out of the Midwest Neuropsychology Consortium. And the ABPS was a sponsor and participant in the original Houston conference that occurred in 1997. And as I said, we're also very active and going to be a major part of the Houston conference revisions that are coming up. We're also involved in developing competencies and that taxonomy to help guide training in neuropsychology. So we're very active in training in the profession, as you might guess. And our member programs are really, really trainee focused and represent premier training programs in both the United States and Canada. Currently, we have 108 programs, and we've really had some very nice growth over the past several years. So we have a good number of quality programs, literally from coast to coast and north of the border for our friends in Canada. So that's also a very exciting part of it. So why choose a postdoc through the ABPS and Match? Our training programs require program review. So before any program can join our organization, they have to go through a program review, have their materials reviewed by our membership committee. We have to evaluate them and make sure that their training is consistent with the Houston Conference guidelines, the taxonomy, the competencies that have been developed for postdoctoral training. And the training director is also required to be board certified through AAC and ABPP. That is a core requirement. And we also have a required code of conduct for recruitment and the fellowship experience. So there's definitely a quality control aspect to this. You know, so you're getting a good quality program when you're applying to AIPS and member programs. But in addition to that, there are some real perks that are available for programs and by extension to our residents and fellows. So there's a number of training program resources, including how-to manuals. We have written exams, mock oral exams that help fellows and residents with preparation for board certification. We have a video didactics program that is called the Multi-Site Didactic Initiative, and that's being led by a couple of our excellent training directors. We have a listserv, and there's also ongoing consultation. And you know, there's also perks specifically for students. One of the biggest is that there is an expedited review of credentials for board certification, and that can help save some real time, and also just the assurance that once you complete your program and your training directors sign off on your training, you'll be eligible for the board certification process. There's also emergency support available for postdocs. We have a number of programs for that. We're also developing some new initiatives moving forward. One of the most exciting is we are going to be implementing some scholarships to assist individuals, primarily from underrepresented communities in neuropsychology, that will help them both participate in the match, particularly the interview process, and also the board certification exams. More will be coming on that in the near future, but I just wanted to let everybody know that we are working on some ways to really kind of help people who haven't been well represented in our field. And that's definitely an area that our field needs to do much more of. And we are going to be doing our part to support people who, you know, maybe from disadvantaged backgrounds or just backgrounds that we just haven't encompassed in our profession. And so we want to do everything we can to encourage that. So that will be coming out in the near future. Because, you know, at its core, you know, we are we're promoting equal opportunity for training. You know, we want to support individuals from diverse and underrepresented and even discriminated against backgrounds, you know, and that is broadly conceptualized, you know, race, ethnicity, disabilities, sexual orientation, gender identity, first generation college graduates, international students. These folks, you know, aren't widely represented in our field. And so AIPS has made a dedicated decision to do everything it can to support these individuals to become neuropsychologists, which will just enrich and diversify our field, which is only for the best for us. So, so that's a very important part of our mission and our reason for being. So what is the match? You know, everybody talks about the match, and the AIPS resident matching program, which we call the match, places applicants into clinical neuropsychology residencies, you know, in the United States and Canada. And for those of you who are watching, I'm sure you've all been through the APIP match for internship, and it is quite analogous to that. Now, obviously, we're nowhere near the size of APIX match because we're smaller and more specialized, but it's the same basic idea. And so AIPS supports and supervises and sponsors the match. And it's administered on our behalf by an organization called National Matching Services, which you can see in the links below here. And they are the ones who actually do the administration of it. And as you participate in the match, you'll be getting emails from them, and you'll have to sign up for them and everything like that. So it's really a good service. We've worked with them for many, many years, and they do a truly top-notch job. So in terms of the match for this upcoming year, and I just realized that says 2021, but it's actually coming up, and the match will occur in 2022. But the dates are correct. So in September, the training programs will be completing their agreements with National Matching Service. And so they'll be signing up for their part of the match. And applicants can also begin to sign up for the match with them. And it's important, one day is date that's very important is to make sure you have registered before January 15th, 2022. That's the deadline for that. We always recommend signing up as soon as possible, and that kind of helps with some of the administration stuff, but certainly by January 15th. Between basically now and December, January of next year, there's a couple of things. November 30th is the deadline for programs to get their materials done. And so on that date, there'll be a list of programs available for the match. So you'll know which programs are participating and offering slots, both adult and child and lifespan. And then in 2022, the important dates, February 2nd to 5th are the dates for INS. At the time that I'm recording this, it is still set for an in-person conference with some video options is what they're saying. And, with the pandemic, I can't say it's definitely going to happen. I'm not sure. I'm not part of INS, but one thing we have decided at APSN is to continue what we did last year, which is essentially to strongly encourage all of our programs to do video-based interviews. This worked quite well this last year in February of 2021, and we think that this will be a highly beneficial thing for our trainees, regardless of what happens with INS. We don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen with INS. It's just probably for the best to do it this way. It's also probably the safest way to do this. So that's what we're really encouraging all of our programs to do. So we've suspended the expectation for in-person interviews again for 2022. We did this in 2021 as well. So there won't be any APSN breakfast, I'm afraid. But overall, this format has worked well during the pandemic. On February 9th, which is just right after INS, is the rank order date where you have to get your rank orders in to National Matching Service. So that's for all programs and applicants. It's due on February 9th. So that's another very important date. And then the results are released on February 16th. And that will be released at the same time to both programs and applicants. So very important to get your ranks in by the 9th. Okay. There's some important dates. Here's some data from this last year's program, just to give you some idea of the size and everything. We don't have the data yet on the 2022 match, but last year there were 89 sites that registered, and they offered a total of 128 programs. Most typically programs offer 1 and sometimes 2 slots per year. So there were, a few more slots than programs. It's also maybe helpful to know how many programs were ranked by applicants. And so we have some data on this. And so for the applicants that matched, they ranked an average of 6.6 sites, okay? For applicants who did not match, which is a minority, but definitely some that did not, they ranked 3.7 sites. And then the overall average was 5.8. Okay. Just to give you some idea of what maybe to expect and think about. In terms of some strategies, one thing we really recommend is to review our website to learn about the programs. There's also the Society for Clinical Neuropsychology, which has a list of programs. APIC has some programs, both our programs, and then there's independent programs that are not part of our organization. And so you really want to get a good sense of what are the different programs, what sort of training experiences do they have, both didactic and clinical research opportunities, and find programs that are a really good match for your interests. Just like internship. You want to find programs that are a good fit for you. You'll also see in the upcoming months postings on the listserv, the ACN community listserv, all the other ones out there. We'll be posting listings, ANST, to let people know about the different positions. So that'll be starting in the next few months. National Matching Service, that you can look at their website. APSN has a number programs there, but not every program in the match is a member of ABSIN. There are a few programs, not very many, a small handful, that are not member programs for one reason or another that do participate in the match. So please carefully look at that so you know. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the programs that aren't in ABSIN, but they just don't belong. But so you want to know what you're signing up for. But so do take a careful look at that. We always recommend contacting programs directly if they have specific questions on what the sites offer, and really recommend applying to several programs. To the extent you can, try to apply in a broad geographic area. And usually we recommend around 8 to 15 programs, depending upon your own comfort level and experiences and advice from your own mentors. That seems to be kind of the sweet spot for many people. If you're applying in heavily competitive areas, you may want to apply to more, but it really depends on your own circumstances. So just something to be aware of. The CVs are critically important for your application. Get examples from successful fellows, people who've been through the match. What did they do? That can be really helpful. Highlight your neuropsych experience, but obviously don't embellish. It needs to be very straightforward. And the reason is if you hide it real well, the people reviewing your application are never going to see it. So you do want to make sure that the neuropsych experiences you've had on practicum or within your internship are highlighted. And you can also do that in like your cover letters and everything like that. You want to make it easy for the training directors and the faculty to find your neuropsych experience, to evaluate that. Okay. Letters of recommendation, I can't really overstate how important these are. Critically important. And we typically recommend you need letters from your neuropsychology practica and intern supervisors. If they're board certified, so much the better. But you need at least a couple letters from people who know your work clinically and know where you are at this point. Dissertation chair or grad school advisor, really important for that broader context of who you are as a person, can comment on different aspects of you that maybe your clinical supervisors can't. And then clinical neuropsychology mentors, which likely would overlap with the first two, but not always. So those are definitely some folks you want to emphasize. Supervisors who've supervised you in psychotherapy training on practicum or internship, probably less critical than the neuropsychology faculty who've worked with you. Many sites, in fact, I think just about every site requires work samples, so carefully consider those and be prepared with at least a couple good examples that reflect the diversity of your training experiences, okay? And you want to find really solid examples of that. So be aware of that. Your letter of interest, this is also something that I can't overemphasize how important it is. It's something that conveys more of who you are than anything else in your application. And so, emphasizing, who you are, why you're interested in this site, what about this site is really a good match for you, are the critical elements of any letter of interest. Again, you've been through internships, so you know that this is not radically different from what's done at the internship level. So keep that in mind. Same basic strategy. You really want to talk to each program individually about what it is at that site that is a good fit for you. Okay. And so you need to know what each site offers, in a good bit of detail. And then proofread. I can't tell you how many applications I've reviewed as a training director that have typographical errors, and that reflects very poorly on the applicant. They may be the best applicant in the world and have stellar letters, but if they have a CV and a cover letter that's rife with typos, it's going to make you wonder as a training director what their reports are going to look like. And you just don't want to go there with people reviewing your application. So carefully proofread for typos, for organization, for clarity, all those types of things. Are you saying what you want to say in a way that you want to say it clearly, succinctly, and in a manner that's, shall we say, training director friendly? Something that will sell you as a really strong applicant. Okay. So keep those points in mind. As I said, I don't think I'm saying anything radically different than you probably heard when you applied for internship. But many of these things are good to just sort of reemphasize. And then I just want to kind of briefly talk about some frequently asked questions that come up. First off, you can get a lot of this information from our frequently asked questions website, also the National Matching Service site, which are on the screen here. One of the questions that comes up a lot is, what's the difference between APA specialty accreditation and ABSIN membership? And, one of the differences is ABSIN is not an accrediting body. That's COA, and they do accredit postdoctoral programs. But to be licensed and go through board certification, that is not a requirement. Some programs have to be APA accredited due to their own institutional requirements. The VA comes to mind as the biggest example of that. VA postdoctoral programs have to be APA accredited. So they have to go through that process. But academic medical centers often do not. Some are boarded, some are not, or sorry, some are accredited, some are not. But overall, that's not really an indication necessarily of quality of the program. Internship, yes, totally is. But ABSIN membership, they do go through a review and they have to meet certain criteria, as I discussed before. So that is also a sign of quality. I mean, either are really signs that programs have been through a process to vet their training. Generally, there aren't consequences for attending one versus the other. At the end of the day, it comes down to which program meets your needs, your interests the best, and that's important. And I'm biased. I would say if you're applying to programs that are either or APA accredited and ABSIN members, you're applying to high quality programs. That doesn't mean other programs aren't high quality, but we know that the programs that have been through our membership process, we're confident they're high quality. So this has come up a lot. And obviously in Minnesota, we have spent a lot of time on Zoom, as you can see here. As I said, it's been strongly recommended that we do this virtually again. It just seems to be the best course in these uncertain times. Hopefully after this, we will settle into a more typical routine. But right now we're going to just recommend the same format as last year. The interviews may be conducted either before or during the INS timeframe. It'll depend on the individual programs. Each one's will probably do it a little differently. Another important question is, do I need to complete the requirements for the doctoral degree to apply? No, not to apply. Although you want to be very clear in all your materials when you will defend your dissertation, what your time frame is for finishing, because it is a requirement to start postdoctoral programs that you, be a postdoc. So, once again, it is really critical that you have all the requirements done before you start. But to match and go through the recruitment process, no, you do not need to be finished at this point. One of the things that comes up is, what if you receive a non-match offer? You apply to some independent programs and you receive an offer before the match day. So one thing we always recommend is, make a list. Do you have enough information that you can make a decision at this point? Are you really not interested in the program? Okay. Perhaps you would just say, no, thank you. Or maybe you need more information, then you might ask them for the information. On the other hand, if the non-match offer is your program of choice, if this is where you really want to go, then take the offer. It's where you want to go, and you can leave the match. There's no harm, no foul with that. That is completely acceptable, and we all understand that. Sometimes you have some interest in the non-match program, but you're also interested in the ABSIN programs, and it's quite possible that the non-match site might be your second choice, and in which case, we have a mechanism where you can reach out to the training director of your top choice and explain the situation. And you can say, well, I have this offer from this program, but wow, I'd really like to come to your program instead. And that training director can provide you some very specific information in that situation about where you rank. And they can tell you either, yes, you will rank high enough that you will match, or they might say, well, we can't guarantee you'll match, but you're on our rank list, or something along those lines. So you'll know basically where you stand with the programs. And then you can make an informed decision from there. But we always encourage people, if they get a non-match offer or an offer from a non-match site, to contact the training program that might be their top choice in absent, if that is indeed the case. So they can discuss the situation and find out where they stand, and then make an informed choice. So that a lot of the power in that situation is in your hands about how you'd like to proceed. But just be aware of that. Okay. So there's no problem with any of that. Where you would run into problems if you do stay in the match, participate, and then renege on your offer. Are there consequences? Yes, there potentially could be, depending upon the circumstances. And, obviously we evaluate every situation individually, but, it's potentially you could be barred from participating in the match. If you didn't get a site in the future. More critically, outside of that is you don't want to, develop a reputation for that. I mean, we're a small profession, and everybody really, this is not an exaggeration, really probably most everybody knows everybody, or knows somebody who knows somebody. So it's really important that you honor your commitments, just like it's important for the training programs to honor their commitments and do what they've promised you. It goes both ways. So it's really important that if you choose to stay in the match, you follow through on your commitments. But if you do get a non-match offer and it's really your top choice, and you withdraw, that is completely fine to everybody, and we get that. So we want to certainly reassure people about that. International students. There have been more international students who've trained outside of the US and Canada recently. And, for this one, you would certainly want to contact the training directors at the sites. And, you'll have to verify your degree through these World Education Service or Comparative Education Service sites. You have to have a transcript prepared and letters of recommendation in English. And you might need to demonstrate English proficiency. So all of those factors are things to consider, but there are a number of programs that welcome international applicants and would seriously consider folks. There are also COVID restrictions that were very much in place last year, and there are still there in many ways right now. We don't know what the next 6 or 8 months will bring, but just be aware of those as well. Yeah. If you require a visa, you'll have to work with your doctoral university to determine if your current visa will cover transition to postdoc, or if not, what are the options? Also, you have to explore visas for family members that are accompanying you, and as well as licensing requirements. A lot of places, university medical centers, for example, do have programs that support visas for postdocs. I can say my university does, and I know of several others that do that, but you're really going to have to check with the individual training program. You may be aware that VAs are not allowed to hire non-US citizens, so also be aware of that. But there are many other programs in absent. So, and finally, if you can't go to INS, still socialize online. Okay, we're not going to have our breakfast, which is unfortunate, of course, but student organizations, if INS isn't in person, I'm certain we'll continue to host some online social activities, and we'll have swag for giveaway. Well, yeah, so all that's good. This is actually a Zoom shot of my crew in one of our staff meetings. So as I said, we're quite experienced with Zoom right now, as I think many of us are. If you have any last minute questions, contact an absent board member representative. You can email me. You can look on our website, appcn.org. We're always happy to help out applicants in any way possible. So, all right. Well, I think that's basically everything. Thank you again for joining me today. I'm looking forward to personally reviewing applications from some of you, and as are many of my training director colleagues, we really look forward to your applications and just personally want to wish you all the best. Okay, you have a good day.